Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Luna and Morpho video. Tilly and I are so excited to be here with you today to talk about light feminine and the dark feminine. And if you've been around for a minute, this is part of our series on feminine energy. So if you haven't checked out our previous videos, we talk about what feminine energy is, how to activate your feminine energy. We have a few more videos coming up in the series, but today we really wanted to dive in and talk about light feminine versus dark feminine and what that really is. So before we dive in case this is your first time seeing our channel, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Lindsay, and I am a spiritual mentor and a Reiki master. And this is my BFF, Tilly. She's also a spiritual mentor, Reiki master, and goddess extraordinaire. And I'm so lucky to be sharing this space with her today. So, but I'm so excited to hear from you, Tilly, in general on kind of like what the light feminine and dark feminine is to you in general, and maybe what your relationship with it is or how it kind of shows up for you in your life.
Yeah, I don't know why I just got the visual of like because it's not that the dark feminine is bad, but I do just get the visual of like the angel and the devil like girls that you see on like trucks. Like that's like the visual
Yeah.
that I just got and yeah, so to me it feels like um yeah, just like the nice girl versus the I don't even want to say like mean girl, but the girl that's like maybe not as nice. I don't know. I don't even know how to say that
Yeah.
without like saying the whole message of the day. But yeah, do you have any words that could like summarize that a little easier? I just got I'm just gonna give you the
Yeah.
symbol. I'm gonna give you the symbol of what comes to mind when I when I think of it.
I love it. No, totally. I with that visual, it's funny because when I was trying to think of examples of like from movies of like who a light feminine character would be and who a dark feminine character would be, all the light feminine, I was thinking like Snow White, and then the dark feminine would be like the Wicked Witch. And I was like, wait, no, that's actually not right. But I think this brings up a really important point, which I'm excited to talk more about today, of really what the light feminine and dark feminine is because I think there is an emphasis when we're talking about light and dark anything that it's good and bad or like good and evil or nice and mean, and those are very polarizing things, and polarity is not a bad thing. Polarity, gives us contrast, it makes our lives exciting, right? But the light feminine versus the dark feminine to me isn't necessarily like our socially, like culturally conditioned parts of us that we show to everybody versus the parts that we repress. It can be that in their shadow aspects, but it's so much more. So let's just go ahead and dive on in. But today I am going, oh yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. I actually did think of a good
That's
analogy for this because it is trending right now. If you think of it as like the black cat versus the golden retriever energy, that really gives me the vibes. And I think so often in those places, they're like, well, you need to be the black cat if you're being the golden retriever. But I feel like every woman has both in her. Every woman has the golden retriever and the black cat within her. So that's just like something I wanted to add because that is like trending right now, popular, and a lot of people can relate with that. And yeah, so it's the black cat and the golden retriever. And instead of trying to decide between the two, being like, oh, I am actually both. So sorry to interrupt you, but like carry on.
not at
That little
all.
trending piece, I was like, oh, this might relate. So yeah.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's a perfect analogy. Thank you so much for adding that in. And I really do feel like we need both. Like sometimes you need black cat energy and sometimes golden retriever energy comes in handy. So it's awesome to have both. But I'm excited to flesh this out a little bit more together. And I just want to start today by talking about the light feminine. So the light feminine to me does carry a kind of giving energy. Within the feminine itself, the feminine can be everything, right? So we can be the giving energy or we can be the receiving energy. And I feel that the light feminine is that giving energy. It's the part of the feminine that's very rooted in service, that's rooted in nurturing, caregiving, and not just nurturing and caregiving to others, but nurturing and caregiving to ourselves as well. It's the part of us that wants to nest in our homes and like for me, it's having lots of plants and watering them every day. And maybe it's having pets, maybe it's having children, maybe it's nurturing your business, whatever it is for you. There's a passion, like a deep passion that you would like to give and give and give of yourself because it lights you up. I also feel like the light feminine is incredibly patient and really kind, very compassionate. There's a grace, a forgiveness, and understanding and acceptance of the light feminine. And I think the mother energy is kind of the perfect way to summarize that. And for this reason, I do think that the light feminine energy probably is the part of us that we're taught to show a little bit more, you know, being the good girl, being the nice girl, being well liked, and all of these different things. But we have to be really careful. We'll probably talk about this in a different video, but there is a healed version of the light feminine. And there's also a wounded version of the light feminine. And this is true with the dark feminine energy as well. But the wounded light feminine energy would be like people pleasing, sacrificing yourself in order to take care of other people, kind of putting your needs last in order to care give. Also not really being honest, like maybe keeping your opinion, your real opinion to yourself just to come off as kind or become off, you know, come off as well liked. I think all of that kind of falls a little bit under people pleasing, but really it can be putting up a facade of I'm this really kind, giving and nurturing, caring woman in this moment, when on the inside you really want to be like F you and I don't like this at all, right? So the healed version of the light feminine is when we're feeling so fulfilled, when we're feeling so on purpose, when we're feeling so supported and guided and taken care of, that giving, nurturing, caregiving energy comes from a really genuine place. It's the version of the feminine that is very soft in its essence. And we talked about that in our last video of leaning into softness. That is the light feminine. It's a very surrendered, soft, gentle feminine energy that I really feel can come out most often when we feel safe. Because just like kids, you know, if you've ever spent time with any children at all, when they feel really, really safe, they are goofballs. They'll throw even tantrums as well. Like they will let you know who they are and how they feel, and they'll just be fully themselves. But if a child is in an environment where they do not feel safe, oftentimes they'll be very quiet. They will try not to do anything wrong. They try to make themselves small. And the same is true of adults, probably all adults, but especially in the feminine energy in particular. This would be kind of the same energy. So when we feel safe, we can give, we can be ourselves, we can have that softness, that surrender, that kind of serenity energy. So it does come down to safety as well. So I actually think it's a huge privilege to be able to be in your light feminine in a way that is authentic, in a way that's grounded, and in a way that feels really true for you. And I think being in the light feminine, because of how wounded it's seen as like being weak or being meek, or again, people pleasing or saving yourself for last, all of those things aren't healthy dynamics within the feminine. That's not the way. I mean, the light feminine, even though it's kind and soft, it's also strong because it's coming from that rooted, authentic place. So that's a little bit about the way I see the light feminine. If I had to kind of pick a person to really embody the light feminine energy, I really would think of Mother Mary. Just her energy in general, being a mother, the way she inspires others, the way that she gives. She's the goddess of compassion. She's the goddess of the rose, which is one of the softest, most just beautiful flowers in the world. It's the highest vibrational plant that exists. It's medicine for the heart. And I definitely feel like that represents the light feminine. It's coming deeply from a heart-centered place. I can think of some other kind of prominent figures in history that I would say kind of embodied the light feminine or led with their light feminine, but I might save those for a little bit later because I'm also really excited to talk about the dark feminine and kind of add in that contrast too. But before we head over to the dark feminine, and I'll turn it over to you, Tilly, do you have anything to add about the light feminine that feels just important for you to include here?
Yeah, I don't know why it's giving me the analogy of like a grocery store and like the light feminine, like when someone say you walk around a corner and someone like almost runs into you, or like if someone walks around a corner and as you're going and they like almost run into you or something like that, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. When there's no reason for you to be sorry. Like that feels like a very wounded light feminine, as opposed to like them being like instead of just being like it's almost like the wounded feminine feels like it's almost Like, I'm sorry for existing. I'm sorry for taking up space. I'm sorry for like, I'm sorry that I'm not making you feel comfortable. I'm sorry that you're feeling, that feels like a wounded, like light feminine to me. Whereas, yeah, I love what you were saying, that the other feminine is just like coming from this beautiful place of like, oh, let me like hold you, let me nurture you, like, let me just love you. Let me make sure you're, like there's two very different energies within the light feminine. So yeah, I really love that. And it's like you're saying, the light feminine feels very soft to me. And I love that you brought
Mhm.
up the rose, because if you think of the rose, it's got both in it. So it's got the light feminine, which is like the soft, beautiful flower, and the dark feminine is more of like the thorns, or like the boundaries, or like the, like you have that softness because your dark feminine is also like there, like holding some codes and some boundaries so that you can be so soft. So yeah, I just really love that about
Yeah.
the light feminine. And mother, like Mother Mary just really does take it there, because she's like, oh, mm.
Yeah,
So
but
yeah,
she's also strong,
yeah,
like if you think of her even historically as the mother of Jesus, like outside of religion, just as facts, right? Seeing your child go through such torture and go through such a difficult life and supporting them on that journey, loving them on that journey, that takes some strength, that takes some courage. And so there is a lot of strength within Mother Mary. One more thing I wanted to add about the healed light feminine is I think the healed light feminine can be very innocent. And that's why I was bringing up that childlike, like children energy and the safety, is because I think in our light feminine, we can be really goofy and very playful and very fun. It's like a very light fun, like that is the golden retriever energy. But it's from a place of safety, knowing that you accept yourself so deeply that you can get a little bit weird, you can get a little bit silly, you can be, a little bit innocent and just and embody all of that in a way that isn't, again, that wounding of, oh, I'm being soft because I'm actually afraid to be loud, or I'm being soft because I'm making other people uncomfortable. Like, let me shrink my existence, and that's why I'm soft. This healed light feminine is the part of us that's like, I'm confident in being soft. I feel so sure of who I am that I don't need to control. I don't need to be anything other than me. And so I'm going to be goofy and I'm going to be playful and I'm going to be, innocent and giving and loving and just, oh, absolutely just care for the people that I love. Also, one more thing I wanted to add with the wounded feminine too. I think that the wounded light feminine can also as too caring or almost suffocating, kind of like a helicopter mom or someone who is so worried all the time about other people that they're kind of in other people's business or is always trying to figure out what's going on and be like, I have to take care of that. I have to take care of that. That is also from a wounded place of, again, that needing to control or not feeling safe. Ultimately, I think when we lean into our wounded patternings, it's just because we don't feel safe and we're trying to have some kind of coping mechanisms to allow our nervous system to feel better. So I hope you can feel the difference between those two energies of that healed confidence, that version of us, and then also the wounded parts where we're either shrinking or we're kind of overbearing in our caring, where it's not coming from an authentic, safe, kind of rooted, grounded place. But with that, I'm really excited to hear your perspective on the dark feminine too, because it gives so much contrast to the feminine energy. And I think, again, like you were saying, the feminine energy can be both. It can be all of these things, and not only these two kind of energies that we're talking about, but can be the full spectrum in between, which I love too. So let's hear your take on the dark feminine and what that energy is like for you, what it means for you.
So I love how you brought up Mother Mary, because I also have a character for us. And if you have not heard of Lilith, this story just perfectly embodies the dark feminine for me. So if you haven't heard the story of Lilith in the Bible, it's just a story that Adam had a female before Eve. And this female was Lilith, and she refused to lay under him. And so she was cast out of the garden. And she was like sentenced to live in the desert or something like that. But this thing I love about this story is that she chose herself and every part of herself over staying in the garden. She's like, I would rather go out and like be cast out from everything else than lose any part of myself. And I love that story for the dark feminine because that is the dark feminine. She is not going to shift, contort, change anything to like try to make anyone else feel more comfortable or put like their stuff on her. And so, like the rose, like I was saying, the dark feminine is really good with boundaries and she's really good with stepping back. Like any moment that you feel like you're like, say you're feeling like I like you're reaching for something, the dark feminine is like, I'm just going to lean back and receive and not like try to overextend myself or try to, like I said, contort or change. And to me, the dark feminine is super sassy. She's sexy. She's playful, but in like a different way. It's kind of like she's a little more like tease type as opposed to like the innocent child, goofy kind of play. She's like kind of teasing. And when I think of like the dark, I just also think of like the dark not as in such like a bad way, but more of like a mystery type of way, where she isn't the type of person that she's like, I'm gonna go have a bunch of friends and I'm gonna have like all these people that like me and I'm gonna have all these things. Like the dark feminine is a little more mysterious and she's like, I'm gonna give the people my time that deserve it. I'm going to, really invest in quality over quantity of like the people who are actually lighting me up and also filling me up, as opposed to being like, oh, I want you to like me, or like I need to be super popular, I need to this. She's like just so herself and not wanting to like overexert herself to make anyone else or like to be liked, or like I've said, people please. Like she's just very black cat, she's like, if I like you, I like you, and if I don't, then I don't. And I'm okay with that. And I'm okay if that hurts your feelings or you don't like that, not hurts your feelings, but I'm okay if that like you feel some type of way about me not wanting to like overextend myself. That feels like the dark feminine to me. And she's also very sensual. She's about her pleasure. Like pleasure is what leads her through her life. She's like, does that feel good? Does that taste good? Does that? And the dark feminine is is the part of you that's going to get you where you want to go. So if you want a life that's better, if you want a raise, if you want a relationship that's like everything you want, then you've got to have that dark feminine energy that's able to hold the boundaries, that's able to hold the standards, that's able to ask for the raise and feel like you deserve the raise. It's the dark feminine that's really, I feel like, what pushes you forward to getting what you desire in your life. Do you have anything to add to that, Lindsay?
Oh my gosh. Well, I think just because the light feminine, I think in general, is what we've been conditioned and socialized to see and accept and think of the feminine as most of the time. I have so much to say on the dark feminine, just because I do think the dark feminine gets a bad rap. Like, just in general, that the dark feminine is like, I don't know, maybe overtly like too sexual, overly sexual, or is too much. But the dark feminine doesn't care about other people's opinions. So she makes herself feel good. And it's the part of us that is, again, similar to the healed light feminine. It's such deep authenticity and such deep confidence that it's, I don't care what other people think about me. And so instead of that giving energy of I'm going to give from an authentic place, it is, I'm going to receive from an authentic place. I know what I want. I know what I deserve. And I'm not going to change my desires because it doesn't match what other people want for me. I'm going to want what I want and I'm going to receive so deeply. And I think that is the two energies of the feminine, and they're why they're so important. It's why we have both, can be both, can experience both. Every single version of us, every single person out there has feminine energy. And I think that giving and receiving energy, like you said, the deep receiving of checking in with ourselves and be like, am I receiving everything that I want? Is this pleasurable to me? Am I doing this purely for me? Or where am I outsourcing and maybe being in the wounded light feminine of people pleasing or shrinking down? The dark feminine reminds us, it's almost like the sacred protector. It's like the dark mother energy versus like the motherly giving energy. And then there's the mama bear protection energy of like, you're not going to mess with my baby. In this case, we are the baby, where we are protecting ourselves. And so it's like, where are we not receiving all of our desires? And that dark feminine will remind you, hey, I don't like that. Hey, that's stepping over my boundary. Hey, this does not feel good for me. And that dark feminine will rise up. And so I think sometimes the dark feminine can embody the parts of ourselves that we've been taught to repress, which can be rage. It can just be anger, even irritability. It can be being too much or asking for too much. It's the opposite of shrinking and standing tall and being like, this is what I want. And I'm standing in that, worthiness, and I'm standing in that authenticity of my deepest desires. Because really, our desires are so holy. I really believe that we live in a universe, in a world that wants to give us what we want. So when we desire something, our desires are that portal into the future. We're desiring something because a future version of us already has that thing. So if you're desiring, more money in your life or luxury in your life, it's because there's a future version of you that already has it. And this desire coming to you now, that deep feminine desire, helps you create that along the way. Same with any other desire, having, the sexiest partner in the world, or having the sweetest relationship, or having the home you've always wanted, or having the business you've always wanted, like whatever your deep desire is, having a lifestyle you've always wanted, that desire is holy. And the dark feminine protects that desire and says, like, just like what you said, Tilly, I'm just echoing you of, I'm not going to shift. I'm not going to mold myself. I'm not going to change my desire because I feel like it's too much. I feel like I don't deserve it. I feel like I can't achieve it. I feel like other people wouldn't want that for me. I feel like it's not societally acceptable. I want what I want, and I'm strong in that authenticity. So it is a sexy energy. And with the Lilith story too, I always giggle, because when she, refuses to lie underneath Adam, I just imagine it's because she wanted that like dominating energy, or just it's more comfortable for her to be on top, like whatever it was. I just like that she was like, no, I deserve pleasure too. Like, I am not going to become submissive to something that doesn't feel good for me. And a lot of times in that story, not to throw Eve under the bus, love Eve too, but I wonder, like, is that part of where that wounded feminine was born, of the, okay, yeah, I'll just people please, I'll do what other people want me to do. But I also think probably for Eve, it was like, authentic for her too. I love that Lilith really, in the story as characters, that Lilith really stood up for herself and was like, no, I want what I want, and I'm not going to change that for you. So I'm good to go through the desert. I'm fine. Like, I'm good. That's fine.
Yeah.
It's powerful.
It's this like, I would rather lose everything than lose myself type energy.
Mm.
It really gives me this analogy of like the rose. Like, can you imagine a rose and like someone walking by and being like, ugh, I hate the smell of roses, and the rose changing because someone else hated the smell of roses or did anything, or like
Mm.
how many people love roses or how many people hate roses, but the rose is just like, I'm the rose. Like, can you imagine that it would take away so much of the beauty of the rose if it tried to like smell different or be different or this because someone didn't like it or this person didn't like that? And I really just love that, like, whoever you are and whoever you are, your dark feminine is here to like protect that, almost to like to show up for
Mm.
yourself, to be like, no, this is who you are, and you don't need to smell any different, you don't need to do anything different, you don't need to like look different, act different, anything than who you truly are, to like be. And it doesn't even matter if you're loved at that point, it's if you love yourself. Like, that's where it really comes from.
Yeah,
So yeah, I really love the dark feminine.
I do too. I do too. And I think it's powerful having this conversation because we can see the similarities between the healed light feminine and also the healed dark feminine. Because the I think that the unhealed dark feminine would be the parts of ourselves that can kind of come off as like, I don't need anybody, I'm good on my own. But actually, on the inside, it's feeling like you have the desire for deep connection. So it's again an inauthenticity. So pushing people away. I also feel like the wounded feminine can be maybe overly sexual or overly um, sassy or have an attitude almost to get attention. Because again, if the dark feminine energy is more that receiving, like I want what I want when I want it, sometimes the wounded version of that can be quite selfish or can be kind of receiving and receiving and receiving almost in a gluttonous way without stopping to say, is this actually making me feel good? Or am I just consuming things because I'm trying to numb something else? So I just wanted to bring that up too, because there's a balance here. But with that healed dark feminine, it is that protection energy of I know what I want and I'm good with that. And I'm going to protect that at all costs. I think that's very similar in some ways, except opposite too. But it's a great complement to the healed light feminine, which is just receiving so deeply that she can also give. So the dark and light feminine need one another. There are two halves of the same coin, literally. And so it's these two energies that really support one another of receiving so deeply that you can give very freely and giving so freely and so authentically in your heart that you receive all of that love back that you put out because you're pouring yourself into things that are in alignment for you, that are authentic to you, and that lights you up so you receive from that. And so it's a very symbiotic energy. And so that is why we need both the light and dark feminine. And so I would encourage you, if you're watching this video, to just think a little bit about which one of these energies that we're describing do you feel like you live in most often? Or when you're tapping into your feminine energy, which kind of feminine power do you usually use? Is it the nurturing, giving energy, the softness? Does that feel more authentic to you? Or is it the protective energy, the receiving energy, the knowing who you are and what you deserve and standing in that personal power kind of energy? And I bet you it'll be a mix of both. So it doesn't have to be one or the other, but really just sitting with both of those and seeing how both are present in your life. Also asking yourself as well, are there parts of the feminine, when we've been talking about feminine energy in the series, what are your own biases towards the feminine energy that have come up of like, oh, I don't want to be soft, or like, oh, I don't, the dark feminine freaks me out. Like, I don't like that energy. That's scary. It's too much for me. Like, whatever it is, just pay attention to some of that conditioning that's come up for you, some of the programming that's come up for you, even just past trauma you've gone through or your past experiences that have maybe shifted this energy and taken it from a healed, kind of balanced place to maybe an unhealed place. And we all have unhealed parts inside of us. So it's not just you. We all are working with this balance of this energy all the time. But it's something really interesting to reflect on and something that can really empower you on your journey with feminine energy to help bring that balance into your life and to have respect for both both polarities, both sides of this energy.
Sweet. Yeah.
Is there anything else that you feel called to add or any reflections you want to offer?
I mean, you guys always know that I love the fashion part of things. So if you are trying to invite in any more, so say that you're like, I've been way too much in my people pleasing. People are walking all over me. I feel like people aren't hearing me. I feel like I'm just like a doormat, or I feel like I'm constantly giving, 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 and I'm depleted. Try wearing something black, try putting on some red lipstick, or try putting on, like something that invites like your dark feminine in, and just practice being a little more in your like as you're putting on these clothes, being like, I'm going to put on this like darker version of myself. And I was even thinking it might be kind of fun to give yourself these like two names, like say that maybe you're like, here's my Mary version, or here's my Lilith version, like Lilith is coming out today, and just start embodying that archetype more, and just kind of like, what would she do? What would she wear? How would this version of myself handle this situation? Like, Mary's been here for a while and people are not like loving her the way she needs to be loved or respecting her boundaries or those. So maybe Lilith needs to come in and be like, no, like if you even need to adopt like an alter ego for a minute because it's not your normal and you just have to like show up from this other place. Or on the opposite side, if you feel like you are feeling kind of like isolated, or just feeling like you're meeting more of the soft feminine, then maybe like, where can I be a little more loving, or maybe can I be a little more nurturing even to yourself? Like, could you be a little softer with yourself? Could you be a little like gentler with yourself? Could you nourish yourself a little bit more? Like those kinds of things. and starting with that, or like even wearing something a little softer or lighter, or like just being a little more like cozy and those kinds of things. Maybe eating like nurturing foods or, things like that. So yeah, I feel like I just always like to bring that kind of in of like you can put on this like new archetype if you're feeling one way or the other and really just start embodying a little bit more of that and bringing some balance into your life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for offering that. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining us for this video today. As always, if you liked this video, please give us a thumbs up. It would really help our channel. And we really like hearing from you guys. So comment below and let us know what you're taking away from this video. If you have any questions, I say this every video, but we really do want to make this community a two-way street, not just us talking at you, but hearing what your interpretation of the dark and light feminine is, how it's present in your life. And if you have any questions or any other kind of topics around feminine energy that you'd like to see a video on or have us cover in the future, let us know. And again, if you want to keep following our series or see more videos that we have on our channel, like energy updates, we have tarot readings, we're going to have Reiki shares and all sorts of other fun things, you can hit the subscribe button and be a part of our community. We would absolutely be honored to have you in our space. So thank you so much for joining us. We love you, and we will see you in the next one.
Bye.